I am Ile Emeje. The federal government last week approved the medium-term expenditure framework for year 2025-2027 and the fiscal strategy paper. According to the MTEF, the proposed budget size stands at 47.9 trillion naira with new borrowings of 9.22 trillion naira. The Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Senator Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, disclosed the details after the Federal Executive Council meeting at the Villa in Abuja. The minister explained that the Federal Executive Council approved a memorandum by the Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning presented by the Director General of the Budget Office of the Federation, Mr. Tanimu Yakubu, on the medium-term expenditure framework and the fiscal strategy paper for 2025-2027, which will be transmitted to the framework to the National Assembly. He further outlined the parameters, including an oil price benchmark of $75 per barrel for 2025, an oil production of 2.06 million barrels per day, an exchange rate of 1,400 naira to a dollar, and a gross domestic products GDP growth of 4.6%. According to the minister, the MTEF included a review of the 2024 budget implementation, highlighting promising progress in revenue collection and expenditure management. Addressing the management team of the National Sugar Development Council, NSDC, in Abuja, Minister of Water Resources, Engineer Joseph Usef, disclosed readiness to stimulating sugar production by finding lasting solutions to the issues affecting the supply of water to sugar estates across the country in order to enhance the nation's economy. The minister explained that supporting the National Sugar Development Council to achieving its mandate of self-sufficiency in sugar production is a task that must be done, adding that the ministry will do everything possible to tackling the identified problems. Highlighting the issues surrounding irrigation and access to water earlier, the Executive Secretary of the NSDC, Mr. Kamar Bakin, emphasized that sustainable water sourcing is required for a modern irrigation in enhancing viability throughout its extensive growth cycle in order to avoid low yields. While seeking for the approval of an open canal water conveyance system from River Hadeja to Gagarawa in Jigawa State for the servicing of the Great Northern Nigeria Agribusiness Limited, the NSDC boss assured that the project will create more than 5,000 jobs from its
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be wielded by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite.
This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation.
This is an interesting edition of your program, Business and Economy, packaged to improving your knowledge on the workings of the global economy with a focus on Nigerian. I am Ile Emeje, your host. The federal government last week approved the Medium-Term Expenditure Framework, MTEF, for 2025-2027 and the Fiscal Strategy Paper. According to the MTEF, the proposed budget size stands at 47.9 trillion naira, with new borrowings of 9.22 trillion naira. The Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Senator Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, disclosed the details after the Federal Executive Council meeting at the Villa in Abuja. The minister explained that the Federal Executive Council approved a memorandum by the Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning, presented by the Director General of the Budget Office of the Federation, Mr. Tanimu Yakubu, on the medium-term fiscal strategy paper for 2025-2027, which will be transmitted to the National Assembly. He further outlined the parameters to include an oil price benchmark of $75 per barrel for 2025, an oil production of 2.06 million barrels per day, an exchange rate of 1,400 naira to a dollar, and a gross domestic product GDP growth of 4.6%. According to the minister, the MTEF included a review of the 2024 budget implementation, highlighting promising progress in revenue collection and expenditure management. And so on today's program, we shall be making an analysis of the appropriation bill for year 2025. And my guest is a public analyst and publisher, Daybreak Nigeria, Dr. Austin Mahon, who will be joining us immediately after the business news to discuss the topic. Stay with us. Addressing the management team of the National Sugar Development Council, NSDC, in Abuja, Minister of Water Resources, Engineer Joseph Usef, disclosed readiness to stimulating sugar production by finding lasting solutions to the issues affecting the supply of water to sugar estates across the country in order to enhance the nation's economy. The minister explained that supporting the National Sugar Development Council to achieving its mandate of self-sufficiency in sugar production is a task that must be done, adding that the ministry will do everything possible to tackling the identified problems. Highlighting the issues surrounding irrigation and access to water earlier, the Executive Secretary of the NSDC, Mr. Kamar Bakin, emphasized that sustainable water sourcing is required for a modern irrigation in enhancing viability throughout its extensive growth cycle in order to avoid low yields. While seeking for the approval of an open canal water conveyance system from River Hadeja to Gagarawa in Jigawa State for the servicing of the Great Northern Nigeria Agribusiness Limited, the NSDC boss assured that the project will create more than 5,000 jobs from its farms and factory operation when completed. Ile Emeje, ASO Television News. In case you just joined us, you are on to your regular program, Business and Economy, where we try to analyze a lot of analytical topics that affects the nation's economy. And today we are looking at the appropriation bill for year 2025. My guest, as I mentioned earlier, is a public analyst and the publisher of Daybreak Nigeria, Dr. Austin Maho. Maho. I'm calling it in my dialect, so I'm very sorry for that. Right. Maho. Yes. Dr. Maho is here already with us in this studio, and he's going to take a look at the appropriation bill for year 2025. Doctor, you are welcome to the program.
Yeah, Ile, nice to be here once again.
Thank you for coming. All right, Doctor, it is conventional world over that individuals, institutions, and even countries draw up budgets to guide their expenditure. In Nigeria, the National Assembly is responsible for scrutinizing and approving the budget of this great nation, Nigeria. How well do you think we have gone with this role being carried out over the years? The National Assembly, do you think they have done well over the years with their responsibility of scrutinizing and approving the budget for the nation?
Ile, I don't know how to answer that question. Seriously.
How do you mean?
Because you can look at it from different angles. Constitutionally, the National Assembly is empowered, to look at the Appropriation Act. Yeah. The appropriation as will be presented to the National Assembly. Yeah. The budget proposal for the year in terms of looking at revenue, that the projected revenue by the federal government, you appropriate those funds into critical sector of the economy in order to, with the purpose of generating growth within the economy, in order to be able to perform government role of welfare and security for its citizens. But the question you've asked is, over the years, how well have the National Assembly been able to play this role effectively, which equally includes oversighting the executive to ensure that they are able to deliver on their core responsibility of executing projects. That have the capacity to improve the welfare of the generality of Nigerians. So it's a mixed bag, if you ask me. Some people will say, no, they've not done very well. Some people will say they've performed averagely. Some will say that most of the budget that have been passed by the National Assembly over the years have not been implemented to the fullest. If only, there was a time I read a report somewhere that if only Nigeria as a country were able to implement just 20% of our budget on a yearly basis, Nigeria will be better off.
20%?
Just, 20%. And the person who said it, I can't remember, was somebody who has been in the National Assembly for many years. He was a serving senator at a point. He said, if only we're able to implement 20% of our budget. And I think that is where the problem is. Every year we go through this ritual of the executive preparing a budget, presenting it to the National Assembly. The National Assembly passes the budget. It becomes an appropriation act. But as they always say, the devil is in the detail. How well have the executive been able to streamline its activities within the provision of the budget to generate the necessary growth? Like you said, you read out, to achieve the medium-term economic forecast in line with the Fiscal Responsibility Act, because all these acts, all these medium-term, long-term projections we are having in respect of the economy is to promote growth. Do we, at the end of every appropriation year, sit down, like the 2024 budget, we are looking at 2025 budget now, at the end of every financial year, come back to say how well did the budget of the previous year, how well did we perform?
A form of an appraisal.
Yes, self-appraisal, to be able to know areas of improvement, areas where you've fallen short. And you ask yourself that critical question. If we fell short in this area, what happened? Why is it that we didn't, as a country or as the executive, why is it that you were not able to follow through? Because however you look at it, the Appropriation Act is a law. And when you violate that law, it's a crime. It's a crime. When you violate a law, it's a crime. So in Nigeria. It doesn't, but that is what it ought to be.
All things being equal.
That is what it ought to be. The Appropriation Act is an act of the National Assembly. It's a law of the national. If you violate it, it's a crime and you should be punished for it. But how many people have been punished in Nigeria, for violating the Appropriation Act? But all we hear is budget have been approved, passed, and money released. You equally ask yourself the question, the National Assembly itself, how well has it been able to play its oversight function in oversighting the executive to say, look, we appropriate XYZ amount of money to this sector, to this sector.
Project.
Were this money released? One, were the funds fully released? If they were, what is the state of those projects? If they were not, why were they not released? So there's a lot we need to do as a country in order to correct this, so that it doesn't become a jamboree, yearly rituals that leads us to nowhere. We need to. So when you ask the question of has the National Assembly done well, some will say, well, they performed their role, passing the budget, passing the Appropriation Act, getting Mr. President who signs it into law. You can say they performed that role. They've done that every year to the satisfaction of Nigeria, irrespective of accusation of, once in a while, like
so many accusations here and there.
budget
padding, and the rest of
yes, constituency projects. But however, having done that, we need to go further. The National Assembly need to take its oversight function, seriously, in order to make sure that allocations are released, and those funds, when they are released, they are used for what they are meant for. And of course, we, the media, we equally have a role to play. The civil society have a role to play. We need to track the budget in order to make sure that they deliver results to the people.
A lot of people have accused us as the media that we have decided to put aside our primary responsibility of being the watchdog of the society, and we are running after other things. What will be your advice in this area? This is because the issue of budget is very critical to the development of any nation of the world, including Nigeria. And when we are talking about oversight function, I've heard reports where people come up to say that XYZ is fighting to become the head of the head of one critical committee or the other. And I'll ask myself, what for? Is it not to for the purpose of oversighting or looking ahead to be able to scrutinize the amount released, amount budgeted, projects carried out, the extent to which, just appraisal, general appraisal? And why do we have this problem over the years? If The media is doing their job and the National Assembly members are doing their job as it were.
We have this problem because what it comes down to is that we are not doing our job. You spoke about the media, and you spoke, there's a term I was expecting you to use, you dodged it, juicy committees. Many members, legislators, they are after juicy, being appointed as chairman of what they term juicy committee. And at times I look at, is it not public service? If you are out to render public service, why are you after juicy committee? What's juicy about the juicy committee?
Is there any business to transact there?
Yeah, being chairman of a business committee. But however, we know what goes on. We know why some committees are juicy and why others are not. It all comes down to, you know, not what benefit the country, but what benefit individuals, what individuals, you know, tend to get from being chairman of this committee and the influence the world, which bring, and from that influence they derive a lot of benefit. And so to that extent, you find out that many of them are not there because they want to play that critical function of, you know, holding the executive accountable to the people, but for themselves. In a situation whereby things are not going right, as chairman of a committee, you are charged with oversight.
What oversight?
Of oversight of, you know, the executive in terms of budgetary allocation to make sure that the funds released are used for what they are supposed to be used for. Then you run short of public expectation. So I think, you know, as a country, we can't say this enough. We need to be committed to the task of nation building. If we really want to build this country, it is within our hands. But if we choose to destroy the country, we will all suffer the consequences. If you are elected as a representative of the people, the people should be, you should be, your views, your opinion, your being in office, whatever you do should be people-centric, should be people-centered, should be about the people.
The interest of the people.
The welfare of the people, the interest of the people. And apart from that, it's even a constitutional provision. The Constitution itself says the security and welfare
of the people
is the sole purpose of government. Government doesn't exist for any other reason other than the welfare, the economic well-being of the people. So when you become an elected representative of the people, you should go with that idea in your head that you carry the hope and aspiration of the people. And people have bestowed on you
the trust.
They are looking up to you. But what happens when you now go there and betray that trust for personal benefit? That's where you find out that many legislators, when it comes to, you know, these yearly rituals of budget, they are thinking more about what is coming to me,
the personal benefit,
which ought not to be. Nobody is saying don't pursue what benefits you. What benefits you, you should pursue it within the framework of what benefits your people, your constituents, those that have sent you to represent their interest. And again, you look at the media. The media, will call ourselves the fourth estate of the realm. We equally have a role to play. But are we equipped to play that role? The media has a very critical role to play. The media, when you still look at the Constitution, you look at chapter 2, section 20, the one that deals with fundamental objective and directive principle of state policy. The media is charged with the responsibility of holding government accountable to the people. The media is supposed to play that role of the watchdog, or what we call the fourth estate of the realm. How well have we been able to play this role in holding government accountable to the people, in giving people the information they need, to be able to make informed decisions. The media is not about entertainment alone. The media is supposed to empower people with information to be able to hold their elected representative to account. If you perform well, we'll see it. If we don't perform well, we'll see it. And if you don't perform well, it becomes the criteria for voting you out of office. If you perform well, it becomes a criteria for retaining your office. That's why the media is seen as the bedrock of democracy. it has a critical role to play. And of course, we currently have the civil society. Apart from a civil society group called Budget It, which has taken on that critical role of budget monitoring and tracking. Yeah. And they are doing very well. I follow them at times. I see that they track a lot of, funds that have been allocated in the budget to specific projects all across the country, and track the stage of the budget, funds release, the contractor handling the project, time frame and all that, and give the result on their side. But we as a media would need to do more. We need more civil society organizations to join in this crusade for effective implementation of the budget. It's the way to go as a country in order to be able to put the leadership on their toe to do the right thing. To do the right thing. We have, like I said, we have the 2024 budget. We need to look at that budget. Look at the shortfall. 2024 budget was about 35. It started with a budget of 25 trillion. It rose to 27.5. Then it became 35 trillion, and all that. Now we have a budget of 47.9, almost 48 trillion, which analysts have said is about 35% increase over last year's budget. And you have the projection. The projection is that, look, the economy will grow by about, I think, almost about 4%. Last year, the projection was about 3.7%. Yes. Did we achieve that target? If you look at the economy as a whole, and you look at the fundamentals in the economy, did that budget, did it achieve its set objective? So how do we believe that this budget on time, which the Minister of Budget and National and Economic Planning said was expansionary, you are expanding. You are looking at, I look at some of the figures there. You are looking at oil production of over 2 million. I think 2.06
million barrels per day.
Is it realistic? Is it possible? The last time Nigeria as a country was able to hit a production target of that's over 2 million, I think was 2016.
I think you're producing about 1.7, 1.8 now.
No, the last report I read, was that was just last week, when the NNPCL came and said that they are producing 1.8. Do you know that OPEC, if you follow the report, OPEC debunked that report.
I saw NNPC's reports, and that's why
their report said they are doing 1.8. Yeah. But OPEC say, come on, you guys are not doing 1.8, you're actually doing 1.45. So if from your own projection you are doing whoever is correct, okay, let's even take NNPC figure, you are doing
let's take NNPC.
1.8. How can you now, and that 1.8 is the highest at least in the last, I can tell you,
some time now,
in the last 5 years.
5 years?
Yes. Quote me anyway.
I wanted to say 2 years.
I can tell you 5 years. Because the last 4 years of Buhari administration, we didn't even hit 1.6. It was so low. It was around 1.3, 1.4. There was a time it even dropped to 1.2 million barrels. In the life of this administration, 18, 19 months, we've not done more than 1.5. That I know. So that is why you find out that when they came out with that figure of 1.8, everybody was celebrating, and they are even projecting 2.
I did.
I also did. Yes, because it's good for the economy. But everybody, because we know that in order for us to be able to address our economic problems, those are, to me, low-hanging fruits that we should take. If we are able to improve on our production capacity, all this controversy between NPCL and Dangote refinery supply of crude oil, it will be taken care of, and more foreign inflow in terms of you take care of Dangote, you still have enough for the export market to earn foreign exchange. It will be a win-win for the economy. That's why I hope that this their projection, they'll be able to meet it. Then there's another fundamental that you look at in the 2024 budget.
Yes.
The projection exchange rate was 700 to 800 to the dollar.
To the dollar.
Yes. Yeah. But now in the current estimate, they are looking at 1,400.
1,400.
Does it mean that there's no hope for the naira anymore? If government can make its budget estimate based on 1.4 naira to the dollar, it means, you know, the plan of the government is to weaken the naira to such a level that is so abysmally low compared to the dollar. And to me, we should be drawing budget and giving some kind of hope and life to the naira. I would have thought that the projection should have maybe $1 to 1.2, but they are looking at the market. They are looking at the fundamentals. What's the exchange rate currently?
Yes,
the exchange is about 1.7 plus.
Yes, 1.76 as of this morning. 1.760.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
So which means the naira has no hope. It's going to continue to slide, especially when you now have budget estimate. You know, the projection is reading 1.4. So to me, possibly that is why when you say it is expansionary at times, but when you actually look at it vis-a-vis the exchange rate, you find out that it's not a lot of money. Because if you look at it in dollar terms, the entire budget is just about 35 billion.
35
billion USD. US dollar.
Billion USD, yes.
35.
Yes.
It's just
if you
about
divide it, simple arithmetic, yeah.
So by the time you now compare an economy of over 200 million people
to
divide that 35 billion is small. Compare it to smaller countries within the region, like South Africa or to India. The Prime Minister of India just visited Nigeria recently. Do you know what their 2024 budget was?
What is it?
It was about 385 billion. 385 billion. 385 billion.
$385 billion.
Compared to Nigeria, or compare our own budget to that of South Africa. South Africa's budget, I don't have the exact figure. I know it's almost about it's over 250 billion. So that is the effect of devaluation of your currency. Your currency becomes so weak. But when you look at the budget in naira terms, 47.9 trillion, it looks so large. But when you compare it, when you do the conversion in dollar terms, it's so small. So what mileage, what can you really achieve? Again, we have the jeopardy of not being able to apply that funds to the fullest. Issue of corruption, issue of budget padding, like we spoke about, and all that. So as a country, in a nutshell, we need to, because at the end of the day, it's a primary responsibility of the executive. You receive funds, you appropriate funds, you use it to execute projects. Those projects should be such that they are allocated to critical sector of the economy that generate productive activity in order to grow our economy and ease the hardship in the land.
Doctor, time will not permit us to ask all of our questions, but I want to believe that when we call you again, you will come. But because of our time, what do you make of a gross domestic product growth of 4.6%? And what should we expect if this appropriation bill is assented? What do we expect generally the economy as we round off?
The point is that I believe the Appropriation Act will be ascended to. It will. The only thing we should beg members of the National Assembly is that let it not go the way of the 2024 budget, where you now have the executive who is charged with the constitutional responsibility of preparing the budget, give it to the National Assembly. The National Assembly will equally pad it and add its own figure. Don't forget what happened in May this year to Abdul Ningi, the senator from Bauchi Central, you know, who accused his colleagues of padding the budget to the tune of about 3 trillion. For what project?
A lot of them accusing each other
with this of what project? So what we should pray and beg the National Assembly, for once, let the interest of Nigeria, especially in these days of hunger and hardship, let focus on Nigerians, focus on the welfare, even if for this one fiscal year, on the welfare of Nigeria, and let's have a budget that truly minister to the needs of Nigeria, not one where when it comes to it, you pad it with frivolous project, you pad it with non-existing project, all because the budget has become an avenue for corruption and diversion of funds. So what we are begging the national is to just do the right thing for the sake of Nigeria, for the health of Nigeria, for the economic growth of Nigeria, and focus less on yourselves as senators.
All right. The National Assembly should please let us have the budget that minister to the needs of Nigeria, have the interest of Nigeria at heart. Let the interest of Nigeria be the priority. And with those words, we have come to the end of today's edition of your program. The guest we have been speaking with is a public analyst and a publisher of Daybreak Nigeria, Dr. Austin
Maho.
Dr. Austin Maho. Doctor, we appreciate you for honoring our invitation to come on this edition of the program.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our esteemed audience out there, we sincerely want to thank you for branching off the program. Enjoy the rest of our programming. I am Ile. Eme just saying good day to you.